All right, welcome back, Algebra 2. So, we're going to continue our system of equation word problems. English probably told you to read it all the way through. Math does not necessarily do that. I learned a long time ago, the very first thing I do on a word problem is I go to the very last sentence. Because when you go to the last sentence or question, it tells you what it's asking for, and this tells you how to set up your variables. How much does it cost to rent a chainsaw for one day? All right, so I have two variables here, so I'm still going to have to set it up. So C is the cost to rent a chainsaw. You need to define your variables. I could use C, and I'm going to use, let's see, B is the brush clipper is the other item that I can rent. So B is the cost to rent the brush clipper. It doesn't matter what variables you use. I like the variables to kind of be like what the problem is. Many people would use X and Y. It doesn't matter what you do as long as you do this step, and you have to define it for me. That is a necessary one. All right, generally, one sentence will get you one equation. So it says the cost to rent a chainsaw for 2 days and a brush clipper for 2 days is $272. You need to remember your what words mean add, subtract, multiply, and divide, and is always means equals in math. So we're going to rent a chainsaw for 2 days, so I'm going to have to take 2 times the cost to rent a chainsaw plus 2 days times a brush clipper equals $272. The cost to rent a chainsaw for 2 days and a brush clipper for 1 day is $195. So my second one is $195. Chainsaw for 2 days, so 2C, a brush clipper for 1 day, 1B. Alright, so now once you have it set up, now you just need to either use substitution or elimination. I'm going to keep on with elimination today. So I noticed that I have a 2 as my coefficient on the C. So that's what I'm going to eliminate. And they have to be opposite. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply the bottom one by -1. 2C plus 2B equals 272. Negative 2C minus 1B equals negative 195. There are a couple things I do that are a good habit. First thing, I show what number I'm multiplying by. If you make a mistake, this can get you some partial credit. My work is always nice, neat, and organized. I rewrite the top equation and I make sure my variables and numbers are stacked on top of one another. Once I have opposites, now I add down. That is 77. All right, so now that I know that B is 77, I just need to sub it in and solve for C. I'm just going to use the bottom one since that's more convenient. So 2C plus 1 times 77 equals 195. So 1 times 77 is just 77. So I'm going to subtract 77 from both sides. And that gets me 118. Divide, and C equals 59. Your last thing is to put it back in context. Just leaving it like this is not good enough. It says, how much does it cost to rent a chainsaw for 1 day? So put it back in context. Cost to run a chainsaw is $59 for 1 day. I need you to put it back in context or you're going to lose points. Next one. 7 times a number, 3 times another number. What are the numbers? What are the numbers? So those are my variables. All right, so let's get in good habit. X is your first number. And I'm going to say Y is my second number. So the first sentence. 7 times a number. This is where you have to go back to Algebra 1 and you need to know what words mean add, subtract, multiply, divide. So 7 times gives 7x plus 3 times another one, so that's 3y. It has the word equals there. Next sentence, get to your second equation. The sum, so sum means add, so I'm going to add them together. The sum of 2 numbers is means equals -3. So this just said that x plus y equals -3. What are the numbers? So anytime that I have a coefficient of 1, I frequently will use substitution. I think that's pretty easy. So let's say x equals, subtract the y over to the other side, x equals -y minus 3. So I'm going to substitute that in place of x in my top equation there. So I would 7 times -y minus 3 plus 3y equals -1. Distribute your 7, so I have -7y minus 21 plus 3y equals -1. I'm going to have to combine like terms, so that adds up to -4y. Add the 21 to the other side, combine like terms, and that equals 20. Divide both sides by -4, and y equals -5. We already solved for x, so let's just plug it in. So x equals -5 minus 3. So you have to be careful and watch your negatives sometimes. The first one comes from that negative sign. The second one comes from the fact that y is a negative number. That negative turns into a +5. So 5 minus 3 equals 2. Always plug it back in and double check yourself. So 7 times 2 is 14. 3 times -5 is -15. 14 minus 15 equals -1. Yep, that's good. Plug it in here. 2 minus 5 equals -3. That's good. What are the numbers? Put it in context. The numbers are 2 and -5. All right, this last one. So we have some theater tickets being sold. I have tickets, I have money, I have everything here. How many student tickets, how many adult tickets were sold? All right, so that tells me how to set up my variables. So x is going to be the number of student tickets sold, and A is going to be the number of adult tickets sold. Many of you would use X and Y. Some of you might think about using S. My S's tend to look like 5s over time when I write an equation, and so, quite frankly, I never, ever use S when I'm setting up my variables. So, I'm not sure if we've done very many of these. I look for the totals. The totals help you set up the equations. So I have a total of 101 tickets, and I have a total of 164. So I'm going to write a ticket total equation. And then I'm going to have a money total equation. So for my number of tickets, so that's just my X and A. So I sold some student tickets, I sold some adult tickets, and I sold a total of 101 tickets. The money is going to be your coefficient. So the student ticket costs $1. So I have $1 times so many student tickets plus, let's see, the adults are $2.50, plus $2.50 times so many adult tickets equals, I made a total of $164. Okay, so on this one, you have X's here. So since they're the same, elimination would be really, really easy. But a lot of times, when you have money equations, you need to think substitution, because sometimes the dollars are not very nice, and so substitution works out much better. So I'm going to multiply the top equation all by -1. So that means I'm just going to change all the signs to negative. So now I have opposites, so I'm going to add down. So when you add down, that's 0. I have -1 plus 250, so that adds up to 1.5a. -1 plus 64 adds up to 63. I'm going to have to divide both sides by 150 to get a by itself, and my calculator said that that was 42. So labeling them is super helpful because some people aren't going to know if that's $42 or 42 tickets. So we sold 42 adult tickets. Now you have to figure out how many student tickets you sold. So we had X plus A equals 101 at first, and we sold 42 adults. So 101 minus 42 equals 59. Put it in context, 59 student ticks were sold. Hope this helps with word problems.